Alright, this is exam 2, part 2, Oakley. My prompts. Question 1. Give an example that illustrates a parameter, sample, statistic, and population. Please be creative and don't use examples from your assignment. Alright. An example would be a poll was recently taken for Suffolk County asking people whether they believed that everyone operating a boat in Suffolk County should have a boating license. Sample size is 1,000 people. Statistic, 18% believed that people living in Suffolk County should have a boating license. And the perimeter would be the percent of people who chose yes out of the whole population of Suffolk County residents. Part B. Explain the difference between a statistic and a parameter. Which one do we typically know? A statistic is an actual percentage of the sample that answers yes or no to said question, and the parameter is pretty much the percent of people in the whole population that agree yes or no, and the one that we typically know is the statistic. The parameter is an unknown fixed number. Question 2. Newsweek performed a survey in which 567 Kentucky parents were asked the question, would you prefer to have your child taught by a male or female for grades K through 2? Only 15% responded that they would prefer to have their child taught by a male in grades K through 2. Part A. Construct a 90% confidence interval. Make sure to state your low and upper numbers of your confidence interval and your margin of error. So for the margin of error, you have to do 164 divided by 2 times the square root of 567, which gives you a margin of error of 3%. And to get the confidence interval, then you have 15% plus or minus 3%. So the confidence interval is 12% to 18%. Part B. Explain what this confidence interval means. You may use any of the 3 explanations we used. So what this means is that since there was room for margin of error, that in other samples it is likely that you will have a percentage closer to 18% or 12%. So it's not a definite number, it's more you have room for movement. Part C. What will happen to the confidence interval if you increase the level of confidence and everything else stays the same? Since you're increasing your level of confidence, that kind of means you're making it a wider range for statistics to come in, so that means that the confidence interval itself is going to be larger to incorporate all of those. So if you have an 80% confidence interval, it's going to be smaller than your 95% confidence interval. Part D. What will happen to your confidence interval if you decrease the sample size and everything else doesn't change? If you decrease the sample size, the margin of error will get larger, and so that creates, once again, a bigger confidence interval because you have a smaller amount of people, so your parameter, the likelihood of your parameter being in that smaller number is larger, if that makes sense. Alright, that's the end of exam 2, part 1. Thanks.